Hello Leute, guten Tag. And yes, I've been learning German.
Ich spreche Deutsch. Ein bisschen Deutsch. Ich liebe die. Ich liebe die. Okay.
Because I actually came to meet a lot of Germans in real life, both traveling Germans and Germans living in America for some reason, at least German speaking people.
Spazieren gegangen.
Ich bin heute spazieren gegangen.
And I've always found German and English to be quite similar. I heard that they're both derivatives of Proto-Indo-European or very recently West Germanic languages that obviously include German, English, and also Dutch, and also Scottish. So English, Dutch, German have a lot of similarities. I'm still a beginner and I'm already picking up on so many patterns.
Editing Ella here. By the way, I just realized I should probably turn my notes into a Notion interactive document instead of a stagnant Google Doc. I'm gonna share the link to my Notion so that you can keep track of what I'm learning, and maybe you want to use the same template for your learning journey, or like I know people are gonna watch me and they're gonna hold me accountable. So I know you're not necessarily asking for this, but I'm still gonna put it out there just in case.
I was watching a YouTube video last night about how you can swap out certain letters in German and get the equivalent English words. That way, even if you don't speak a word of German, you can still recognize some words. A few of you might know that I'm also learning French, and I've actually looked into if I should be learning two languages at the same time, if it's a good idea. And so far, I've been getting a lot more no's rather than yes, because you do slow down when you try to do two languages at once. Focus on anything is the key to success, but I would say my French is slightly more advanced than my German, so they're in two different stages and they're different enough from each other that I don't get them confused. Although I do notice that in speaking, I tend to say it or it, the French end, instead of und. And it happens so fast. But I wouldn't say that's a result of learning two languages at once. I would say that's just me not being very familiar with German or not practicing enough. So that's what I've been up to. And honestly, learning languages gives me an opportunity to travel abroad without leaving my house, because up until very recently, I was busy working on another ebook and working on any creative project for long periods of time. You naturally have the limit of not being able to go outside and travel or do anything fun because you have to stay kind of focused. Even if you're just relaxing, you're still thinking about the project in the back of your head. Inevitably, things started getting very boring, so I wanted to learn another language, not only to challenge myself, but also because it seems doable and it's foreign enough, exotic and exciting enough that I feel like it scratches an itch that I have for exploring the outside world, even if I'm not physically traveling. Down the line, if I do travel to Germany or Austria or Switzerland or maybe even France, I will at least think to myself that I'm having a good time there because I can actually speak with the locals. Although I heard that Germans speak really perfect English, and if they ever hear a slight accent coming from you, an English accent for instance, they'll just start speaking English with you. Probably because they also want to practice their English. But fear not, I wasn't counting on practicing when I'm there. I wasn't counting on practicing my spoken German with native Germans. I'm actually taking classes online. This tutor, he's not even a German native. He's Argentinian. Actually, Spanish is his first language. and then English, and then German, Dutch, Italian, of course, and he's learning Polish. He speaks some other language that's like really obscure, but those are the main ones. I watched an introduction video from him before I signed up lessons from him, and I watched a video of him demonstrating his obviously language capabilities and his personality and his methods, and I just vibed with him the most. And so far I've done 2 weeks of lessons. I this time around took a different approach from what I did with French, because with French, although I did take classes in college, it was mostly just my own studies. Sure, I've asked a tutor to correct my pronunciation. I've bought a lot of grammar books. I've sought out people asking their questions about grammar, because French grammar is a little tricky. And so is German, probably more so with German. So I am fully embracing having a babysitter in learning a language, because learning 2 languages at once and also working is a lot of brain work that I just wanted to be lazy this time around with German and talk to a real human being. So although I still have a German dictionary, a German textbook, a German grammar book, and all the basic tools and resources, I've just kind of brushed it off and started taking lessons so that I can just rely on someone. I enjoy that. You know, I wish I can do more with my students like that. I'm hopefully coming out with another course by the end of this year so that you also don't have to do any guesswork. Not only do you know the strategies, not only do you know the right mindset, the right tools and resources, but you can also just rely on somebody else's body of work, that you can just pick up the pace that somebody else designed for you, because we all are lazy sometimes, more so mentally than physically. I think one of the hardest things for adults to keep up learning languages or doing anything in a long period of time is not knowing what to do on a daily basis, especially in the beginning. When you don't know what you're doing, it's even harder to decide and decipher if you're doing something right, to decide what to do every day. So this time around with German, I figured might as well have a teacher just guide me the whole way. Especially with German grammar, it's a lot of new stuff, new ideas. We have different cases. Case is basically, if we translate it into Chinese, is 主格宾格, right? We have the difference between I and me. They all mean 我. All these pronouns mean the same thing, but when it's 主格, when it's the nominative case, you only use it in the subject of the sentence. With German, there's a nominative case and an objective case, but there's 2 different objectives. There's the indirect, which is dative, and also the direct object, which is accusative. And then we have the genitive case. A lot of new concepts, although not too different from English. There's still a lot more information to learn. But so far, I've noticed that I'm enjoying it. I think it's just my personality. Like when I don't know something, I won't beat myself up. Luckily, I learned that by learning English, learning French on my own. There's always an answer to everything. Especially if you have a tutor or if you have a guidebook or if you just have the internet. If you can be really specific about your question, if you can just embrace that ambivalence and ambiguity and stay curious, there's always an answer to everything. I want to mention this mindset difference because my learning German from the very beginning coincides with one of my students starting from zero with English. So we're on the same journey, learning a brand new language. We're at the same speed. She has about the same amount of vocab as I do in German, and yet we have a very different mindset. My disposition towards something I don't know, something I'm frustrated with potentially is, okay, how do I resolve this? Who do I ask? What question do I ask? Is there any book or a forum online that can answer my question. Is my question a legitimate question to have? Okay, I get the answer, I move on. Or I don't get the answer, or it's too advanced, it's got too many intricate parts. Then I move on. I make a mental note that this is potentially important. I'll come back to it some other day. And then I just work on something else. I don't sweat about it. Meanwhile, my student who's learning English from the very beginning, almost the very beginning, she has turned learning a language into a question of intelligence, a question of discipline. So anytime she runs into something that she doesn't know or she gets wrong, she gets very frustrated. It's very almost diminishing. And I don't blame her. We have been taught by our schools, our teachers, our parents, a lot of the times that, oh, you're not smart enough. How could you get this wrong? Especially in Eastern Asian education, Eastern Asian schooling systems, we thrive on beating our students down, beating their spirits. So she has a lot of trauma. She has a lot of baggage when it comes to learning, not just English, but probably learning anything in general, learning a new thing or trying a new thing. And I actually had to spend quite a lot of time, not necessarily guiding her through the specific English lessons, but just her mindset. I have to talk some sense into her, try to calm her down and try to assuage her anxiety and turn that anxiety into curiosity. I think that's one of the things that children do better than adults when it comes to learning languages. It's not necessarily that children's brains are more malleable. Well, they are, but it's also because they don't attach meaning to their uncertainty. If they don't know something, they just go, okay, move on, or continue asking questions. But adults are not like that. Most adults either are too lazy to see it through or don't see a point in asking the right questions, or they overly rely on schools and textbooks, or in the case of my student, start beating themselves up. Obviously not ideal for doing something long term. I've seen it happen with people that are trying to lose weight. I've seen it happen to me. We get very conservative about our efforts when we have this, ooh, if I don't figure it out today, right this second, I'm stupid, I'm gonna give up. Or, ooh, if I don't lose 10 pounds by the end of this week, then all my effort is wasteful. I give up. Sometimes you're already on the trajectory to winning, but it's gonna look like this for a very long time because your foundation or your methods are still kind of wavering. It's not stable yet. Sometimes you do a little bit, go forward 2 steps, take a step back, and then you think to yourself, ooh, this isn't worth it. I don't see a progress. Meanwhile, you have made progress. It's just 1 step at a time. But every step you take, you kind of second guess yourself. So by the end of your journey or halfway through your journey, you give up, you won't see any result. But that's not a matter of your intelligence. Sure, when it comes to certain concepts, it might take you a few more attempts, like me with different genders in German. I'm not even sweating it right now. Like, if I get it wrong, I'm perfectly fine with that. In fact, it's pretty normal to get non-essential information wrong. You have to be okay with that. Like I said, learning a language is not a matter of your intelligence. It's not a math test. It's not an exact science. And even if you get certain concepts wrong, it's to be expected. They're perfectly normal. They don't necessarily mean that you won't speak English. It doesn't have to do with your fluency. Obviously, certain things matter, like your sentence structure, how to properly use a verb. But there are the things that are irrelevant, or at least irrelevant right now, that you can kind of ignore or get back to it later. And you have to trust that journey. Once you've seen a word enough times, once you've encountered a certain grammar concept enough times, you'll turn it into a muscle memory. And even then, you'll still get things wrong. Like, I still make mistakes in English. When I catch myself, I correct them. When I don't catch myself and I see it in recording, I'm not like, oh my god, how could you be so stupid after 10 years of learning English? Even native speakers make mistakes. What to speak of us non-native speakers learning a second language or a third language. in their 20s and their 30s, when we have so much life going on that sometimes learning languages, it's not a priority in our life. We have other things going on. So give yourself a pass. Let yourself just relax. Let yourself stay curious. Let yourself enjoy this process. And if obstacles come your way, take them one at a time, or don't take them. Take a break from them and then come back to it. I'm spending so much time on German and French right now because in the past 4 to 5 years, I've been busy with other things. But I've had this thought. I've wanted to learn these two languages since 2018, maybe even earlier. When Inglourious Basterds came out, I was so mesmerized with Christoph Waltz, the actor that played Hans Landa, who spoke perfect German, obviously, he's Austrian, and perfect French, and obviously English.
Vous commencez à expliquer l'origine de votre possession du cinéma. Rechte untere Innentasche meines Mantels greifen mit mir geben, was Sie darin finden. Get me someone on the other end of that radio with the power of the pen to authorize my...
So, since then, that was like maybe 10 years ago, I've been wanting to learn this language, but I didn't get around to it until these past 2 years. And even now, I'm still moving at a very slow pace. It's not a matter of my intelligence. It's just logistically, this is all I can afford. But I know if I keep at it, if I maintain my speed, if I, every now and then pick up the pace or slow down the pace, that's fine. But if I just keep at it, I'll eventually get to fluency. Because look at Steve Kaufman. He's a self-proclaimed language grandpa. Or the way I see it, he learns everything like that. Like he doesn't tell himself, oh, I'm too old to do this, I'm too old to do that. No. As long as I stay alive, I'm always going to be learning something new. I'm always going to be learning languages specifically. That's my input on learning new languages. And I wanted to tell you how I've been with German and French. It's so ongoing. French has taken a back seat a little bit because I could afford to do it. It's like the grammar part and the pronunciation part are all pretty much done. So then now I'm just working on getting more input. And if I slow down my input, my French is still... But German, I need to accelerate my speed because there's so many things that I know, pronunciation, grammar, vocab, that I need to first make sure the plane is taken off. Then I can slow down. Then I can work on 2 languages or more together at the same time. All right, that's just my rant for the day. Let me know if you're also learning languages. Doesn't have to be English. Doesn't have to be European languages. Maybe it's Japanese. Maybe it's Korean. I think once I'm done with French and German, I'll move on to Japanese and or Korean because they're similar to Chinese, similar enough at least. So then I would just have 4 or 5 languages under my belt. I don't know what I would do with those languages, but I enjoy K-dramas. I enjoy anime. I've always wanted to fully be able to understand the subtext of things, the cultural references of things. So maybe when I'm 40, 50 years old, I could afford to do that. Or even sooner. I'm not married. I got nothing to do. This is kind of my jam. All right, I'll end it on that note. Hope you have a good summer learning languages or traveling abroad. And check back in with me anytime. Bye.